Hi everyone, thanks for taking the time to join Nividous today for a live webinar leveraging RPA and AI in the accounts payable process. My name's Kayla, I handle marketing initiatives at Nividous and I'm going to be your host today. Our speaker today is Alan Hester, president of Nividous. So before we start, I'm going to go over some quick guidelines. If you have trouble with the audio or video, please use the chat window on the side of the control panel and we'll sort that out for you. You can also use the question window, which is a separate window to share your questions related directly to the webinar. And please ask those questions whenever you feel like it. If we don't have time at the end of the session to address them, we'll be sure to get back to you via email. We will also be sending out a recording of this session, and the same recording will be available on our website for download. To start, I'm going to open today's session with a very brief introduction of Nividous. Founded in 2011, our aim is to help businesses work at their peak efficiency and succeed with their digital transformation goals with our intelligent automation platform. We offer vertical solutions to help empower companies of all industries, like you can see on the screen. And one of the biggest differentiators of our platform is that RPA, AI, and BPM capabilities are natively developed within the platform itself. And this key differentiator has enabled us to help our customers meet their overall end-to-end automation needs. I'm now going to hand it over to our speaker, Alan, to take over.
Thanks, Kayla. So we're going to start off with an eye chart today. I am always preaching to everyone how we need to not use slides with a lot of words on the page, but clearly we have violated that guidance in this particular slide, but we're using this just to give you some of the challenges that you might face as you deal with manual processing of your accounts payable process. And so one of the things that I want to point out right off the bat is that when we talk about manual processing, I know that many companies out there have already invested in an ERP or some other systems that automate parts of the process, but still there remain a lot of challenges because there are additional pieces of the puzzle that still have to be done manually. So, if you just look through the list here, we're talking about things like compliance, the fact that you don't always have good visibility into everything that's happening, dealing with accruals, leveraging early payment discounts, poor vendor relationships, the cost per invoice. All of these kinds of things have negative side effects, both to your employees that have to deal with them, as well as to your customers. And so what we're going to talk about today is a way that you can leverage some technology to get rid of all of these challenges and make sure that your accounts payable process on an end-to-end basis will be automated in a way that's going to increase your customer satisfaction and your employee satisfaction with how the process is handled. So let's just look quickly at a little bit of research here that says that typically takes between 4 and 16 days for companies to process an invoice from receipt through payment approval. And then also that half of all invoice processing requires at least 76% manual input. So maybe based on that, maybe you just want to jump off right now because maybe you'll say, hey, we're already doing way better than that, and that's good enough. And if so, congratulations. But if not, stick with us for a little while and we'll show you how maybe you can do a little bit better. So what kinds of things can you do with automation? If this is new for you, maybe you're not a technical person and maybe some of these terms you've heard before, maybe you've heard of intelligent automation or robotic process automation or artificial intelligence, but you don't really know how it can apply in your setting. So let's just kind of walk through some of the kinds of tasks that can be automated within this limited area of AP automation. Now, one of the things that I'll point out that's unique about our platform, we're talking in this particular session about AP automation, but our platform does far more than AP automation. So there are some specialized pieces of software out there that might do some pieces of this automatically, but they're going to be limited to AP automation only. Whereas our platform, if you invest in bringing this in for AP automation, you're going to be able to continue to use the same platform for automation of lots of other business processes as well. So it's not only AP automation that you can leverage it for, but many other things. But as I said, we're going to focus here on AP automation. I just wanted to point out that the platform is not limited to that. So intelligent data capture from different types of invoices. Invoices are historically problematic because you have no control over how they come in, and they come in lots of different forms. Sometimes you're going to get them as paper, maybe they're going to be mailed in or maybe handed to you by a delivery person. Sometimes you might get them scanned, or you might scan them yourselves. Maybe they'll be emailed or faxed, or through some kind of EDI interface, right? There's a lot of different kinds of forms within each of those types as well, right? So, and if you look at, for example, if you look at all of the faxes you get, or all of the emails you get with invoices, all of those invoices are not going to look the same. And so then that makes it so that there's a whole process for being able to gather this information, wade through it, figure out what to do with it, how to disposition it. And automation makes this whole process much less manual and less error prone. Okay, so that's what we're talking about with the second point here, which is invoice classification and sorting. Also checking for duplicates, data validation against ERP, sometimes called two-way and three-way matching against your POs and goods receipt notices, invoice exception flagging, invoice approval routing. In our platform, there's very sophisticated mechanisms built in to allow you to deal with all kinds of approval situations that you might have. And maybe you'll say that yours is very simple, so it's not a big deal. But if you're looking at a situation that's more complicated, our system will also handle that. The seamless flow of information through discrete systems, and also all kinds of different reporting, analytics, dashboards, notifications, all of that. So some of this is obvious, but just to look at it from a high level, the benefits of automation: improved turnaround time, reducing human errors and the cost associated with a lot of human manual work, increased process transparency, basically knowing what's going on, where something is within the process, improved cash flow, better compliance and process control, improved relations with vendors, improved data accuracy, and enhanced customer satisfaction, as we've already talked about. So the two technologies that we're going to focus on in this accounts payable automation solution that we're going to look at today. And by the way, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but stick with me through these few slides, because we're getting to a real demo where I'm going to show you how this looks in real life. So if you're the kind of person that says, hey, you know, you're throwing a lot of words out there, I don't care about any of this, it doesn't really tell me how it's going to work, we're going to show you a real demo of how this works in real life, and that will give you a better idea if that's the way that you learn. So we just have a few more things to go through before we get to that. So the two technologies we're primarily going to talk about here are robotic process automation, which is the automation of tasks using software, bots, or robots. And these are usually simple rule-driven tasks that you can train the bot how to do. And we're not going to focus in this session on how you train it, or the back end, or what that all looks like. but I'll just mention briefly that in the Nividous platform, you have the ability to develop these automations without writing any code. So if for some reason you want to develop that expertise in-house, or maybe you already have your own IT department and that's something that you want to rely on them to do, we have training available to enable them to do that. But then we also have our own technical staff, and typically we will be involved in helping you with at least the first couple of automations until your people get the hang of it. Or if you say, you know what, we have no interest in doing that, even though we have technical people, they're busy doing other things, and that's fine too. We're happy to do all the work for you. And we also have an extensive partner network that can help out with that if needed. So first one, robotic process automation. The second one, artificial intelligence. And I'm guessing probably most people have at least heard that term before. You might not know what it is, but you probably have heard of it. And this is basically higher level processing in computers so that you can use computers to really do more sophisticated thinking than what typically is possible without this kind of technology at work. So the bots on their own in robotic process automation are kind of dumb. As I said, they can do some simple rule-based tasks, and they can make decisions if you train them. Hey, you know, look at this and then make a decision on based on what the data says or something like that. As long as you can build it out and it's standardized and it's always going to be the same answers that it can judge from, then RPA on its own can handle that. But for dealing with more situations that you might not typically see and being able to do a judgment on something, you know, that's where you need artificial intelligence in the mix for those more sophisticated situations. And really it's used in this case just to make it possible for more of the end-to-end process to be automated and require less human involvement and still get great results. In fact, in most cases, the involvement of AI is going to give you much better results. So let's just take a look at what this will look like, and then I'll show you live in the demo of kind of what it looks like in the real world, right? So you get your, so first off, the process is going to start in one of two ways, either with or without a PO. And in our example, we're going to look at a non-PO version. So we're going to look at two-way matching scenario, not three-way matching scenario. And as I said, there's lots of different possibilities for how the invoices might come in. And so we're going to show you that using our platform kind of out of the box with the AP automation solution, you're going to get a great interface that is useful for your internal team to keep track of where all the invoices are in the process, but you can also use it as a portal for your customers or partners, whoever's going to be submitting invoices to you that you want to keep track of. They can do that directly through this portal interface as well. And then not only can you have access to the real-time status of where everything stands, they will also be able to access that information as well. And so I don't want to explain this in any greater detail here because you're really going to see this all play out in the demo. So let's just switch over here and go to the demo. Okay, great. Now, here's what we're going to look at in this scenario. And here we're logging into the Nividous platform, and you can see the portal interface that I was talking about. This is the one that can be used directly by your vendors, partners, customers, however you want to use this. And you could see it gives them the ability to upload an invoice directly. It also shows at a high level the statuses of everything that's in there. Obviously, for a vendor, they're only going to see their invoices, not everyone's. But then when you log into the system on the back end, this is more your view, and it depends on the role that you're playing, how much of this you're going to see. But you have very detailed dashboards and reporting that's available to you. So now we're going to go into a specific task associated with that invoice that was just uploaded. You can see the invoice itself is here on the left-hand side, and all the data that was extracted is on the right-hand side. And this gives you the ability to check that for accuracy before it goes to the next step in the process. Here you can see we're showing you the process itself, and we can see that it's at the invoice approval step right now, and then there's several other steps that we're going to go through before we get to the end of the demo, just to show you how it works through this whole process. You can see here that the GL code cost centers all extracted from the company's master data, and the person has the ability to just approve this and move it to the next step in the process. And so the next step is going to look at the two-way matching. So in this case, there's no errors or problems, so we're able to see when we log in as the person responsible for this, that all the fields are highlighted in green, which is saying that the GRN matches with what's on the invoice and there's no issues or problems. So in this case, that person will just complete this task and move it on to the next step, which is for the bot then to enter all of the data into the ERP system for everything to be finalized. Now we're going to look at a case where not everything does match, so that you can see how that can be handled. And that all is fully automated as well, with just the exception of someone having to log in to see how the error can be resolved. Okay, so we're going to go through that same kind of process here, where someone is going to log in, they're going to do the approval first, and then based on the approval, it's going to go through the matching step as we saw before. And this is just showing you that any of this information can be corrected here. We also have a threshold below which you can have these flagged if the bot thinks that there might be some inaccuracies. So in this case, we're just going to send it off to the next step, and then we're going to log in as the person responsible for looking at the matching. And you can see in this case, there's a task that says resolve exception because there's a problem here. So when we look at that tab of the tables, you can see that the invoice quantity that's on the invoice doesn't match what's in the good receipts notice. And so it also gives you a little message there of what the problem is, and we can see it's on the resolve exception step here. And then you also have the ability to correct this if you know what is right or wrong, or if you have to do some research on the side to figure that out. You have the ability to make the correction right in the system, and then the ERP system is approved appropriately. And then all of the steps get updated in the portal so that both you and anyone else who has access to that can see real time where it all stands. Okay, so I know that's a lot to swallow in a quick period of time. If you do have any questions about that, remember you can type those into the question panel on the screen, and we will come back to those. Or if we don't have a chance to answer it in this session, we'll certainly get back to you via email. So now let's look at a couple of customer success stories where we have implemented this kind of solution for some of our customers already, so that you could get a sense of what kind of return on your investment you might see when you automate this kind of process. So this one is a manufacturing company that was dealing with a tremendous number of invoices, about 20,000 invoices a month, coming from over 400 vendors, a lot of different invoice formats and a lot of different sources, as we talked about previously. And most of it was unstructured data, meaning that it was something that was scanned in or faxed. So there was no easy way to extract the data. This was resulting in delayed payments and a lot of human errors that could affect their relationships with their vendors. So we were able to use this platform that I showed you, and using what we call smart bots, which I didn't mention this before, but the smart bots are kind of where the artificial intelligence lives within our platform. So there are some cases where you don't necessarily need artificial intelligence to address your automation challenges. And so we separate out the smart bots so that you're not required to answer them or to have the smart bots if you don't need them, right? Because it just makes the overall system more complicated if you do it that way. So in this case, we used the smart bots, and there was a machine learning algorithm that would extract the information, and it allowed straight through processing of the 2- and 3-way matching. And all of this resulted in a 50% savings in the number of FTEs, or the amount of time FTEs spent in this process, 85% process efficiency improvement, and a 90% reduction in manual errors. So this is one of the things that when we first talk to people, they don't think of this as the driver. They don't really think of the error rate as the driver, but in a lot of cases, this makes a bigger difference than removing the manual work, is the reduction of the errors. You know, the errors can really cause a ton of different problems. And in a lot of cases, you don't even realize that they're happening right now in your manual systems. And so wringing those out of the process really makes a big difference in the results. So actually, I just realized this is the same exact this is the same exact case study, just has a different pictures on it. So we're not going to go through that in any detail. So instead, let me see what questions we have, and we'll tackle those. So the first thing that we have here is someone is asking, what is, or why is the approval process before the matching of the documents? Would the approval want to know that the documents are matched? Okay, so I think what this person is asking is that when we did the demo, actually, let me go back to the demo real quick so that I can highlight what is happening here and we can see it's real time. Of course, I closed that window, but I'll get it back. I'll get it back. Okay, so let me switch back over to the part of the demo that I think they're talking about here. So actually, let's look at the process itself, and this will, okay, let me share this. Okay, so if you look at the process itself here, right, we have the first step, OCR validation, making sure that everything is extracted correctly. Then there's a data review step, and then checking for duplicates. And then if there are duplicates, obviously resolution of that. But if there are no duplicates, the next thing that we go to is the invoice type, whether it has a PO or non-PO. In this case, there was no PO. So we get the general ledger and cost center, and then it's ready for processing, GLCC validation, and then moves to the invoice approval step. So I think what this person is asking is, why was the approval done before the data had been validated, but it really wasn't done before the data had been validated, because we didn't really talk about that in detail. But if you look at the so let's go back to where this was happening real time, right? When someone, they uploaded the invoice, right? And then the first step that we looked at was invoice approval, right? But if you look at the process itself, invoice approval is way down here. So we didn't actually show these steps. We didn't show the data review duplicate check, which is automated anyway. But we didn't show that in this first example for time reasons. So you're exactly right. You wouldn't want to do that before. You wouldn't want to have the approval done before you had validated the data. And if in case you're talking about, because you also talk about matching. So if we go to how the two-way and three-way matching works, let's just find that part of the process here. So the matching, the matching is done here, right? And then the result is viewed, and then basically there is an exception handling section here where we saw this in the second case where there was an error that can be resolved. So you do have the ability to correct any problems and deal with them before it moves on to the next part of the process. So if the question is, why can't that be done in advance? Potentially, depending on how your systems are working, maybe yes. For this particular customer, it was not implemented in that way. But that's one of the other benefits of our platform, is it gives you the flexibility to be able to deal with things in different ways depending on what your company is already most comfortable with. So if you already understand how your business process is working, and you don't want to create much differences that you have to manage the human side of that change, you are able to work within those parameters and build the automation around that. One of the things that we always do when we approach a project is that when we look at the as-is state of the process, we also give it a quick check over just to make sure that it really is optimized before building the automation. And that's something that you're probably already doing and looking at within your company anyway, but just as a second check, we will take a look at that as well. So I think we're pretty much out of time now. I hope I did your question justice, and we won't have time to address anything else. But if you want further clarification on that, certainly let us know. And for those of you who had any other questions, we'll be getting back to you via email so that you get the answers to your questions. But let me just turn it over to you, Kayla, to close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for a great session. I hope all of our attendees found the session insightful, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Like Alan said, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact the information that you see on the screen. That's contact us at nividous.com. And just as a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of this session. We also have more interesting webinars lined up, and you can always visit our website, nividous.com, to check those out. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.